This is Sarah from Name 3 Songs podcast, and today we're getting candid with Duckwrth. Before we get into today's interview with Duckwrth, I do need to go over some fangirl nonsense because I've been feeling really like major fangirl nostalgia and craziness this past week because it was the 15-year anniversary of the formation of One Direction. And 15 years is a big milestone, especially for the fact that the band has now been around a whole decade longer than they existed as a band together making music, which is crazy. But also, it's the first anniversary to happen since the passing of Liam Payne. And that's really difficult. I don't know if anybody else has watched the Making the Band, whatever that show is called on Netflix. I couldn't bring myself to watch it, but I saw this clip that they ended with because they made the season like in the memory of Liam Payne. And oh, they ended with this clip of them like playing What Makes You Beautiful during a filming, and Liam gets on stage and he starts dancing and he's just filled with so much life and joy, and he goes in the crowd and he's singing with fans, and it's borderline giving like One Direction karaoke night, but Liam Payne is there. And just like how much joy that band still brought him is so beautiful, and everything about it just makes me feel so sad that we lost him in this point where he was just going through such a rough time, and fans and him did not necessarily have the best relationship, or like the fans didn't have the best relationship with him. He still adored us. And so it's just like, it's that thing of like grappling of like getting older when somebody no longer exists, and like history passing us by, and like, just like the nostalgia of it all is so different now because it's joyous, but also so sad. And just scrolling on TikTok and watching all of these tribute videos that would normally just be so joyful. And like, I just remember like past One Direction anniversaries and Liam being on TikTok and like kind of coming on with the fun, like with everybody and taking part in things. And the fact that he's not here to do that with us anymore is just a lot. And so, yeah, I don't know. It was an interesting time on the internet, and I definitely shed more tears than I had planned to. And if you're just tuning in, hi, I'm Sarah, and I am part of Name 3 Songs podcast, which is a podcast where we talk about music and pop culture under a feminist lens, and we talk about how pop culture has an impact on current events and society and our daily lives, and how it is such a bigger deal than most normal people who like aren't as tapped into pop culture as we are would think that it is. And we also talk about things like this, fangirl nonsense that is taking over our brain. My other piece of fangirl nonsense this week is the fact that I have been going to a lot of movies lately. Specifically, I want to talk about Superman because, oh boy, was that movie so good. It was so good. And David Cornsweet is fantastic because he is a fellow fangirl of everything that he loves, specifically Star Wars, but like everything he loves. Like the press cycle around this movie has been so fun because he is incredibly offline, but also incredibly tapped into his special interests. But Superman as a movie was so much fun to watch because number one, I have not seen chemistry like that, like what Rachel Brosnahan and David Cornsweet had with each other in years. Like I've been missing that level of chemistry in cinema for so long, but also like the movie was so colorful and it was lit in such a way that I felt like I was watching a superhero movie that like I assumed I would be watching when I was a kid. Like it felt like a comic book came to life. And I grew up watching the TV show Smallville, which I don't know how big of a deal that is in England, but in America, it's a big deal. And it just felt like it was really taking a lot of notes from Smallville. And I love that. And Nicholas Hoult is such a good actor that I almost felt bad for Lex Luthor. Like, oh, it was just such a fun time. And I feel like there were just multiple points in the movie where I was like anxious and like on the edge of my seat and excited, but also so many points in the movie where I was like giggling and kicking my feet because I was like, oh my God, everybody's so cute. And there's just like such good chemistry. And it was such a fun, exciting watch. And I love when movies are like that. But on the other hand, I went and saw this movie called Oh Hi, which is starring Molly Gordon and Logan Lerman. And it is like, I thought it was supposed to be a rom-com, like with like thriller aspects, but it was very much like a case study on the idea of situationships and like relationship markers and like, I don't know. I don't know. It was just like I'm thinking too much about this movie now that I've left the cinema from seeing it, and I wanted to just go and have a giggle because Logan Lerman is hot, and I wanted to be like, "Ooh, look at that!" They also had good chemistry, not as good as Rachel Brosnahan and David Cornsweet's chemistry, but like the chemistry was also good. But I think that was also why I was upset that the movie wasn't funny. Like I thought it was gonna be campy, but instead it was just kind of like esoteric, and I don't want to think about love languages or attachment styles when I'm going to the cinema. That's just not what I want. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm feeling lots of feelings about going to the movies and like the conversations you're supposed to be having with your friends after you go to the cinema and like what you're going to discuss. And I don't know. I really, really had given up on superhero films and whether or not I was gonna like them or be into them anymore. And I was like so into like the X-Men movies and all that kind of stuff. But this Superman movie really got my gears going, got me really excited to see what else James Gunn is going to do with the DC universe. So if you want to hear more fangirl musings and other thoughts about, pop culture, movies, music, all that kind of stuff, you can check that out on Name Three Songs, which is going to be on all of your favorite podcasting platforms. But now we are going to be getting candid with Duckwrth. And this interview was so interesting because Duckwrth is in his 30s. He has been making music for years. He is such a talented artist, and he spent the past couple of years just having this very like internal monologue conversation with himself about his behavior in relationships and what that means and like who he is and what he wants. And we had this really like open conversation about his relationship with women romantically, platonically, and it was so interesting to like get these insights and find out about how he had to like take this really elongated break from making music, and like that really made him think and question his life and his choices and all of these things. And it really gave him this like perspective in order to write this album. And it is just so interesting because it very much is a concept record. It's a very long album, but in like the best way possible because it's very much a story. There's a narrative that runs throughout the whole record that is done by like Keith Stanfield. So that's like a very, very talented actor is involved in this as well, which is so cool and so impressive and really adds this other layer to the storytelling of the record because the record, like the songs are told in parts of this like healing journey that Duckwrth is going through. And so getting to have this conversation, especially because Jenna and I, my co-host, we live in New York. The dating culture here is absolute trash. So many men are just honestly similar to that movie Oh Hi that I was complaining about. It's a very big on the situationship kind of idea. And so Duckwrth was talking to us about how he used to be that type of person who was just kind of like using women, taking advantage of them. And it was really interesting hearing how he's opening his mind to change and why he wants to, and why also surrounding himself with a lot of like platonic female friends has enabled him to like make these changes and figure out who he really is. So with all of that, let's go get candid with Duckwrth.
Hi Duckwrth, welcome to the show.
Hi, how you doing?
It's good to have you here today. Okay, we got a lot to get through, and we only have a limited amount of time because we have many things we're excited to talk to you about. Most importantly, you released your album, All American Fuckboy. First of all, I want to give a big congrats because this is like kind of an insane album and like an undertaking that process that you've gone through. Big congrats there. This is 25 tracks. There's a narrative throughout. There's 4 chapters. There's a lot of storytelling going on, and you've clearly put a lot of thought into the making of this album over the past 2 years. And from what I've read in interviews, it seems like it's generally important for you to like consider albums as almost like these larger than life projects and just be very thoughtful with how you're approaching them. So why is it important for you to approach like albums specifically as with this mindset?
What I recently realized is that I'm a millennial, but I'm like definitely like pre-internet. So with that, I feel like I have a certain duty to be a bridge to like new generation of like what album to me when I grew up, and like value that those albums had via like the stories that they told, and having that capacity of a project, it made you live with the album for much longer, like a week,
Yeah.
But I don't know. I just want to make it worthwhile to like the people who take the time to listen to my music.
I mean, I think it's also a respect for yourself and your own art, because like right now, being in the digital age we're in with TikTok and streaming, and it's like everything is like promote this song for a month, promote this song for a month. I feel like a lot of artists are like struggling to give albums like the almost the respect they deserve,
Yeah.
like as a body of work, and it's like very clear that you've prioritized that.
Definitely. I mean, it makes me happy. Like, if I didn't do this, I would be driven crazy. Really would.
But I mean, you took on like a very big idea here by like uncovering all of these things that you've been through, and like I feel like it would have been a disservice also to just the project in general to not tell that story through the way that you did, because also like there's so many things involved in it, but it's like you've been making music for 10 years and you've have like a huge discography on top of that, and it took you 2 years to make this album. So do you feel like at this point in your career you've like figured out that like you need to kind of take the time to sit and be like, okay, this is the project. I need to focus on this. This is what I need to do.
No. The universe just worked out that way. I stopped touring in 2022 because I was diagnosed with, it's an umbrella term, but status migrainosis, which is like stacked on top of each other over time, which lead to vertigo, disability,
Oh wow.
bad migraines, even like tinnitus and stuff. So don't have the exact answers to it. During that time, after 2020, literally it started January 1st, 2023. I don't know why. But it made it where I was unable, like a lot of times I was like immobile, like I could not move without having like the craziest migraine, or like I'm just like kind of not even spinning, just like off. This is happening, and I have a sensitivity to like sound. Like
Oh wow.
today, it still bothers me, but like certain frequencies, like certain high pitched sounds, like it's
Mm.
traumatic to my ears. Like
Yeah.
so, I was like, there's no way I'm going to be able to tour or like perform at all.
Wow.
I
Yeah.
Yeah.
can't stand straight, and like I'm sensitive to sound. And you know, since then I've learned how to like manage it, and
Mm.
I've learned how to manage it. But it forced me to stop everything, and kind of
Yeah.
when you stop, like kind of like what happened in COVID, you stop, you start to realize
Yeah.
life and like what's valuable.
Yeah.
You kind of understand your fears more, and like what has been the reason why you haven't been able to elevate in this portion of your life. You start to
Right.
Yeah.
why you start to
Yeah.
as like toxic patterns and habits that you've like perpetuated. And I think for me, mine was like generally a fear of commitment. Why I keep kind of running into these walls in my relationships
Yeah.
is usually because of me, and it's never have to do with
Mm.
it. And it's usually like a fear that I will always,
Mm.
I couldn't see beyond it. I couldn't see over that wall, you know? But
Mm.
I had to understand, like, well, I do these different things that cause this. Well, I'll just say wall, you know. But
Yeah.
I just had 2 years to figure it out.
Yeah, that's so interesting. Because I guess, like, for me at least, it's like COVID and like that shutting down the world, like, gave me a lot of time to do like introspective thinking about like how I wanted to like move forward with my life and like adjust things that weren't working out. And it's like you kind of had like a terrible thing happen, but also at the same time, it let you have this moment with yourself to like be introspective. And so I don't know, it's like that's so interesting to me because obviously something horrible was going on where you're like in pain, but like you're also getting this time to yourself that like you never would have gotten. And so do you feel like in a way like having that time has really helped you like move forward in your life of like figuring out who you are and who you want to be?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that's how this like realm works. I feel like everybody is promised some type of pain, you know, and I think
Yeah.
the intersection or like the crossroad is like what you do with it. Like for the people,
Mm.
like there's a side where people take the pain and they transmute it, and they like
Mm-hmm.
turn it into gold. And I think from there, that's when you start to see, or your quote unquote higher self, you know,
Yeah.
like you develop skill sets or like adapt, and then you kind of become better at this life thing. But you have to,
Yeah.
versus the other side of people who like the transgressions kind of get the best of them, and then they,
Yeah.
yeah, then it becomes their identity, you know, and they never get to see that side, that higher side
Right.
Yeah.
promised to everybody.
Yeah. I mean, that's so beautifully put. And I mean, you talked about this also in your LA Weekly interview that you did about kind of like trauma that like gets passed down through families. And I feel like that, I mean, like psychologically speaking, that's factual of like, oh, like your parents had to like escape a country or like had to go through slavery, like you were talking about, or segregation and the civil rights and like all that kind of stuff. And it's like there's like two paths where it's like you can make the decision to like let that trauma guide you and just make you not be able to function in a way that allows you to make that goal that you were saying, or you take it and you run with it. And for this record, you took it and you ran with it. And you were like, oh, I'm going to take like everything that I've been through and actually turn it into gold. And so how did you get to that point where you're like, you know what, I'm going to stop letting the trauma run me and I'm going to run it myself?
Outside of music side, I just wanted a healthy, like a successful and healthy relationship. I think I was like, when your unresolved issues ends up being pain for other people that you love.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully you get to a point where you're like, damn, like I don't want this to keep happening. You know, I care for that person. I just, if it's me that is the problem, figure this out. And I can't point the finger at anybody else. And like, I have the benefit of having a lot of like platonic female relationships. A lot of those like relationships are with queer women. A lot of circle is like queer people. So like the scope, the lens is way more vast. On a shade, like
of people calling you out. You have more perspectives calling you out.
Yes.
Honestly, I all think we could use some more diverse perspectives calling us out. Otherwise, we just get in an echo chamber of our own thoughts. And how is that helpful in any way?
Yeah, I had no other choice but to be accountable because all sides of circle.
Your friends were gonna not even be your friends anymore. Yeah. I love that. I actually love that. More men need women in their life.
Definitely, for sure.
So, I mean, it was kind of like you got to this point where it's like, you were like, I need to make this change for myself in my life because something is not right here and I can't keep living and operating this way. But at what point were you deciding that you wanted to then put it into an album? Was it because like you just really wanted to make an album that was truly vulnerable to who you were? Or did you feel like making art was part of a healing process for you?
Both. But I think my manager just really challenged me. She was like, she kind of put it into perspective of like, this is the thing, because I'm always talking about that with her, my like commitment issue that I had. She was like, well, this seems like a very prevalent issue in your life, like, and you feel like you're hitting this wall as a writer or as an artist. She's like, why don't you write about that? I was like, oh, I guess I could. You know, so having a manager who's very like intuitive and it's my manager, you know, and like my manager's also my friend. So she sees all sides of me. So to kind of like hold the mirror to me. And I'm like, oh, okay, I guess that is like a, you know, an issue. and also we were like, think about my favorite artists. Like my favorite artists, they have something to say. Like the pen game is like on point, you know, like there's meat in the music that you can sink your teeth into, you know, versus passive writing, you know, that is just, you know, the functionality of it is very limited, you know, but your favorite artist is like, they write those songs that like penetrate your soul, you know? So like challenged as a writer to be like, write something that penetrates people, you know?
Yeah. I mean, you're saying that now, but I don't assume that that's an easy task. Was it difficult for you to push yourself in that way?
Yeah, because you got to be vulnerable. Like, people going to be in my business. I don't particularly.
Did you have a resistance with yourself of like, wait, this is kind of scary?
Yeah, because like you can be judged. You push yourself. I mean, I made an album called All American Fuckboy. You know what I'm saying? And my like female demographic is quite high, so it's like I run the risk of alienating them because of the name itself.
Yeah, but I feel like you're taking us on this journey that like in some ways you're like giving us an introspective look into something that like we've all kind of been like, how do we know what they're thinking of? Like, it's like honestly, literally like when I was reading the interview, I was like, what witch told him our secrets? But also, did the man witches know that he's telling us his secret? Like, I was like, what is happening?
And honestly, that I've gotten that perspective much more, and I'm like, that's tight. That's tight. Yeah, you get a look.
Yeah, it's like widening the perspective because it's both like you're helping start the conversation for men to be like, okay, like this man is being vulnerable, maybe I can be too, but you're also opening the door for women to then also like approach their male friends with a body of work to be like, hey, I feel like you've done this. Do you want to talk about it maybe?
I feel like you could benefit from listening to this.
Yeah, maybe like listen to this record. It might fix something. Like think about some stuff.
Wow, that's tight. I actually am happy for it. hear that perspective and not it be like, oh my gosh, a tumultuous listen, like this long hero's journey that you know.
No, I don't think that. Like, that's the thing. I feel like there could be the possibility of it feeling very, like, self-indulgent by naming an album something like this and admitting to something like that. And even, like, the build-up at the start of that thing where you're kind of at the beginning of the journey, like, I could understand where, like, if somebody has a closed mind coming into it being like, but...
Yeah.
realistically, it's like, it's going to be a whole story. You look at the album, you look at the track list, that we're going to get to a point, and it's not going, and the point is not going to be like, I was just doing what I want to do anyway. It's like there is like a story being told.
Yeah, facts. Yeah, no, thank you for that reassurance.
You're welcome.
But I think like taking it back to the vulnerability aspect, I mean, do you feel like pushing yourself in a way where you need to be vulnerable with your lyrics, with your storytelling, do you feel like this made you approach the songwriting differently than you have in your past discography?
I think the 3 subject matters I spoke of a lot before was sex, relationships, dancing, maybe one more thing. It was like I didn't have to go that deep. I became exceptionally well at writing about those subjects,
Yeah.
I think when I have to write a song about, I don't know, like the trauma that my father put me through from like not being around and like cheating and everything, like, yeah, that it required a bit of digging, and like digging not from the sense that I had to go into my memory banks, like it's fresh in my memory. I think it's just having to write that, have to put that down on paper, having to read that and then like send it off.
Yeah.
Because once again, it's people, for lack of better words, in my business. But people understanding this inner workings of me so that they can feel seen, or so that they can like start these conversations, or I don't know, like I guess the biggest part is being seen. I don't even want to elaborate further on it. It's just I need people to know, like at least people in my area of like, or my occupation, that it's like it's not just like music for these 3 things that I mentioned, but it's like we us artists like are layered, complex individuals, and even though we don't speak about it, like this is what's happening. Like our album has opened my mind so much, because now it's like all I want to write about is like personal, uncomfortable. I've been writing since this album. I've been writing more and more, and like now I don't want to go back to and like I feel like it's like a muscle that I want to keep flexing. It's for me, maybe it just gives me a purpose. I just turned 37 last week, and I think like as you get older, you kind of, I don't know a better word for it, but you give less of a fuck. I know I should curse, but you give less of that about certain things, and you care more, maybe more about life. You maybe become more appreciative. Things become more minimal, and like become more focused on what's important. And I think for me, what's becoming most important is like purpose, and that's all I really care about now. Because like maybe also as you get older, you start thinking more about mortality, and I'm only like 37. I'm not.
We've talked a lot on the podcast, and also with mostly our like female guests, about like the Saturn return thing, and how a lot of women, when they hit 30 in music, it's like their careers have been over in the past, and how nowadays that like doesn't happen as much anymore. And there's a lot of like really great albums that come out from especially like from people like during their Saturn return, like when they're about to hit 30, and then like the realizations that you have, whatever, of like, oh, actually this isn't that old, actually like there's so much more life to have, like all these things. And so it's interesting you say that, because like I'm 33, Jenna's gonna be 30 in September, and so it's like these like life realizations of like, oh wow, like maybe I can be like more real with myself or honest with myself, and like hold that mirror up. And so it's interesting that you're saying that like when you were writing it down, it was like that I don't know, it sounds like the moments were becoming more real. And like I know that obviously they always were real, but it's that thing where it's like when you admit to yourself that this is a thing that you've been through by like putting it down on paper and not just talking about
you can,
it.
like, see it outside
it's like you
yourself.
can see it outside yourself and experience it in a different way. And so like, what was that experience like for you as well? Just like seeing that written down and being like, oh, okay, like I'm dealing with this. Like this is what I'm doing now.
Yeah, it was therapeutic in a way. Remember they used to teach us when I was little, you don't really learn something just by reading it. It's better to say it out loud, I guess.
Yeah.
Like, it's another form of experiencing. So like hearing it played back to myself, it's like kind of like a not a astral projection, but you kind of leave yourself.
Yeah.
You leave your fishbowl and you like
Mm-hmm.
kind of see it. And even because we shot a video for Permanent Vacation, and it's like
Mm-hmm.
it's oh man, I don't know if y'all seen it.
Yeah.
Your link, but it's a child version of me with like representatives of like both of my parents, and it's hard, and it's
Yeah.
like it pulls at your heartstrings very hard. But then even within that, like it's therapeutic from like a damn like that did happen to me, but like
Mm-hmm.
that thought immediately goes to like, now how can I like get other people to like be seen, or like
Right.
yeah, like it doesn't stay on me too long because it's lived. I don't really care.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, especially when you're talking about stuff from your childhood is like deeply personal and like can be deeply, deeply emotional, and people deal with that in different ways. But I think like the thing that we're talking about is like a lot of times we just shut off and like ignore those things, and like you were really digging in with this, and I'm curious, like you're saying you really care about like how can I get other people to, you know, think about this or have these conversations. Have you had any feedback from like your friends or peers, or I'm curious even just like in terms of like music wise,
Yeah.
of like your peers in music, of people having similar conversations with you?
Mm-hmm. I think I've been having very interesting conversations with a lot of men in general, but in the industry, like for sure, like when I work with different producers or different artists, and they approach me and they're like, "Hey man, like congratulations! Like what if you really dropped a 21 track album in 2025?" You know, they more so like praise me for the music side of it and Keith being on it, and then I kind of use it as like an excuse to talk about the more of the
Like, so what about your feelings?
Yeah, so what do you think? What do you think about the story?
like most
You're
times.
like, got him. This is just a gotcha album.
And then now we're having like an existential like conversation like in a party. But it's, I think what's always interesting is the confessions and the fact that a lot of men are self-aware. It's just the difference is just like the voice of wisdom in your head, you know. You're gonna listen to it, you know, or if you're gonna just give in to like your urges and everything like
Yeah.
and alcohol being the lubricant for like terrible decision making, you know?
Because also it's like you mentioned before, having a lot of like platonic female friends, and like I feel like I have a lot of male friends who are self-aware until the moment actually happens where they like have to do something about it. And it's like really interesting because it's like the people who are good friends to women but like bad partners to women, and I feel like that's also a really interesting like juxtaposition where it's like I could be talking to a male friend about their relationship issues and they're like, I know what I'm doing wrong, and then they just like keep doing it wrong, and I'm like,
It's like that's where the problem is.
it's like how do you have this conversation? And I wonder, like, now that you are kind of forcing your male counterparts and friends to like have these conversations, like forcing, you know what I mean, quote unquote, like because of the album, because of the themes of it, like if like you're noticing that they've also maybe had similar conversations with whatever women are in their life that they're not romantically interested in, and now that you're saying it, they're like, oh, maybe I need to think about this deeper.
Yeah, because I think accountability will be held when it's like men holding men accountable.
Yeah.
Sadly.
Yeah.
Because for the longest we like praise each other for doing it. You
Yeah.
know,
Right.
the dialogue has to change a bit. And it's like, I wouldn't say it has to be like a punishment, but it has of a like, and maybe that's what it is. Maybe it is being called like a F-boy or
Yeah.
something more in that vein where it's like, if you know, live your life this way, and if you like have these type of relationships and everything, you fall in line with this negative archetype, you know. And I don't know, man, I don't know what the repercussions will be of that. Maybe it doesn't need repercussions, but it just needs to be more of a, whereas before you would call it like a pimp or a player,
Yeah.
whatever else, it's just more so like, nah, like you a foul individual, like, you know.
Yeah.
Foul behavior.
Well, I feel like it's also that thing of like, I feel like your friends should be concerned when you have a lot, like as a guy, have a lot of female friends. And I know you said that most of them are queer, but still it's like that thing of like, oh, like you haven't met my friends. Like I'm not setting you up with my friends because I don't trust you. Like that kind of thing where it's like that introspective thought too, I feel like is always that thing that's missing where it's like, do you not think about the fact that like You've never, like, I've never been like, oh, you should date my friend. Like, maybe think about that. You know what I mean?
Like I can count on one hand how many male relationships I have, honestly, and most of those guys are in relationships. So
Yeah. See, but that's the thing though. And that's the thing that I find interesting too, is it's like people, like, obviously it's like as you grow, you gravitate towards people that you have more things in common with, or like more common ground. But then it's like the thing you've talked about in other interviews, it's like, then how do we help these other men find the accountability when it's like none of us want to hang out with them because they're treating people like crap?
Or I guess it's just like for me, it's like a bit of a dissonance because I'm hetero, but like I'm fluid.
Yeah.
Like I think my energy is quite fluid. So for me, my comfort level of like not feeling like uncomfortable for being around other men who are like quite like hetero or like really like like I don't know, like also I just find it to be corny. Like it took a long time for me to like go to the gym. I go to the gym now because I gotta.
Well, no, but I think that makes sense.
If you want to talk about this, like you can talk about like images of masculinity since a very early age of growing up, and like what men are expected to be, or like how they're expected to act, or like being bullied in high school if you don't look or act a certain way, like regardless of what your gender expression is, your sexual orientation. And it's like these are the things that are like beyond just like being an F-boy in relationships. It's like masculinity is a whole other side of this conversation of like what you're expected to be growing up. And it sounds like the point where you're at now, it's like you have to be someone who's so comfortable with yourself to be able to be honest, to be able to have these conversations. And a lot of people aren't comfortable with themselves in that way and are worried about how they're going to be challenged and how they're going to be viewed from other people.
Yeah, by being, and even like how they feel being around somebody like that, because it's like, oh, they're going to pressure me to like think.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. That's quite funny. I think there's just an irrational fear with men to like have their masculinity challenged, honestly. I think it's just the way we were raised, whether religiously, whether through the patriarchy, like everything relies upon us like maintaining our like masculinity. I think that's why the word pause was created, because like it's just this men's irrational fear of some masculinity,
Yeah.
And I think masculinity just needs to be, obviously, it just needs to be expanded on what masculinity actually is,
Well, it's like how the patriarchy like also hurts men. It's like these things that are in place to make men more powerful, but in the grand scheme of things, it's like they're not really helping anyone because it makes men like not be comfortable showing emotions or being open or like anything like that. So it's like even this thing like you're saying, like prior to this album, like when you would write music, you were so in the headspace of like, oh, like I'm going to talk about like dancing and sex and relationships or whatever. And it's like, yeah, you were doing that, but it was like that's what you kind of were told, like, oh, this is the ability that men have to be open. And so it's like reaching that point of being like, oh, I can actually diversify like my music and my story and be comfortable in doing that and be comfortable performing it in front of people even.
Yeah, no, most definitely.
So it's like, obviously you were saying like a lot of these thoughts and like the process came to you because you had this illness, like you had to be home and like laying around and think, like having lots of introspective thought. But also it's like we were reading interviews with you like from even like 2022, and it's like you've always kind of like your creativity has always been there. You've always been like, it's like the door's always been cracked to like reach this point. So do you feel like even before you had this like health thing that you were approaching this of being like, okay, like I'm seeing a bigger picture for my music and where I can take this because I want to be more open and like introspective in my career?
That's a really good question. I would like to say the introspective direction was inevitable, but it's hard to say. I'm living the reality of being challenged and then writing about it and now seeing the quote unquote fruit of it.
Yeah.
In the multiverse where I didn't. I don't know. It was inevitable, but I'm just not quite sure.
Well, it's interesting because it's like you mentioned this at the beginning of like I was saying, we were kind of saying, do you feel like you need time to live life as a human in then order to create art? And you're saying like right now you're saying I don't have the answer to that, but in this lifetime I was challenged. And I think like as human and as an artist, if you want to continue to grow and you want to continue to push boundaries, which it sounds like is something you've always been interested in doing, there has to be a challenge of some sort. And it's like life presented you with this specific challenge and this is how you grew from it. But like at a certain point, like you can't make art in an echo chamber. Like you have to live life, and like life is about how you overcome challenges, how you heal, how you grow. And so this is kind of like like we were saying, what you did with that and then putting it back into your art.
Yeah. I feel like it was just a perfect storm of like things that happened. Because it's like it was the being stopped because of disequilibrium and everything else I was dealing with a combination of like me feeling like I was hitting a ceiling as an artist, along with the combination of being challenged by my manager. Like it just all these things like happened and assembled to create me writing this album, you know? So I mainly because I'm always in an existential place, a peaceful existential. Now I'm not losing my mind, but I'm like always like, what if one of those elements weren't there? Like, would I've still come to this?
Right. Would have happened. Yeah.
And the answer is it doesn't matter because this is what happens. So whatever. Like,
Right.
but for what you said, I think yes. Then if when you shape it in that way, then maybe it was inevitable for this to happen because it was the challenges that happened, you know. And it's like maybe I feel because my other option would have been leaning into being a graphic designer and a garment designer. So and that was my option for like a good 6 months. I was like, maybe I'll never be able to tour again. So you know what, whatever. Like
Interesting.
go into
Yeah.
that.
Talking about that for a minute, I mean, was it jarring for you having this like vertigo and like noise situation where it's like music has been your livelihood and like yes you do have other interests as an artist, but was it something that was kind of like a blow to your identity of like what if I can't do music again?
Yes, I think that's like a 10 years down the road, maybe 5 years down the road, hindsight type of question. Because also I have a lot of earth signs in me, and so I think even at high levels of pain, I will still be like calm about it. So I don't think sometimes I fully digest the
What was happening at the time? Yeah.
and the trauma of it, I suppose, which is not the best. But I think for me,
That's for the next album.
yeah, maybe. Like, yeah, I handle my emotions as a Taurus, you know. So
Can I pause you for a second? You just said you handle your emotions like a Taurus. Have you felt like you're like, I'm being open, I'm being open, I'm being open, and then there's a moment where you realize, oh, I'm actually not being that open?
yeah, yeah, definitely. And, okay, and that's what helped with writing this album because I was working with two different groups, but my guys, Kendo and Sherwin, who executive produced the album, our promise to each other was to go deeper. When it felt too comfortable, deeper. When the production, when the melody that they would create, it felt too familiar, go deeper because you're probably pulling it from somewhere other place. Like we
Yeah.
such a place of like origin, as much original as you can be, but like, or maybe authenticity is a better word. And like, even for me as a writer, it's just like, yeah, that's cool the way you wrote that, but I feel like you can write that better. I feel like you can use better words,
Right.
tell the story a bit better. So yeah, there was times where I felt that I was being like open, and no, I wasn't. And there were
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's why it's important to have people like checking you
Yeah.
and like know that you want to push yourself. Because also, I read in an interview you did with Paper Mag in 2022, you said that one of your biggest fears is not realizing your full potential as an artist. And you, at the time, you felt like you still had more left to give. You still had your best song to write. Like you hadn't even reached like your ultimate kind of thing as an artist. And I think, you know, through your lifetime, that's probably something you're always going to be working at. But like with this album, do you feel like you're closer to that, to this kind of like full potential we're talking about in terms of pushing yourself?
Yes, definitely. I feel like I've added the element of like me. I very like vaguely before, but it's like I found the power in telling a story, telling my story, I suppose.
Yeah.
Admitting fault, admitting flaw. Because like in America right now, it's this whole thing of trying to present like save face and like erase history of like fault, you know, to kind of
Right.
make people like believe like they for some reason they feel that if you admit flaw then it shows like that the structure is weak, you know, and then therefore you belief of people. When it's so funny, like you gain the belief of people by admitting flaw because they see themselves in it,
Right. Right.
but they're dumb. So but they're trying to save face and like erase history and be like, nah, like we are a great country. But yeah, within admitting flaw, I've found like a deeper level of like I guess trust that I have with my audience and like a deeper connection. Mind you, it's only been like what 2 months since this album's been out, so it's like I'm still
Yeah.
of understanding the effect that this album has on people. But we did within 3 weeks of dropping the album, we did a show in LA. Just a quick little one off. The way people
Right.
like within 3 weeks knew the lyrics, like
Mm-hmm.
like I'm not even on tour yet, and people are already like the energy is different from any other tour I've done or any other show I've done. Is if people are singing it with like conviction, like it feels like a
Yeah.
breakthrough with like people, you know. It
Yeah.
it's like what's necessary right now because the zeitgeist, at least in America, I think we all are kind of feeling the same thing, and a lot of it is like it's like an anxiety because we don't know what's about to happen,
Yeah.
and like that's for one side of people, and then for the other side of people who made a specific choice, they're starting to see like, oh,
Yeah.
choice. So now they're also going into like, well, I don't know what happened, you know, and I think that we're kind of,
Yeah.
and I often find that rock, I love punk, I love rock, I love hardcore. That kind of happens as a response to
Yeah.
politics and surety and everything.
Yeah, I was gonna bring that up because in that, like, you talked about how like the first girl you liked was like into emo music, and then how there was like that other who was like in a punk, and then you like got into punk and like all this stuff.
Yeah.
And I think it's interesting how you're saying that like people are like really gravitating to these lyrics and like remembering them and singing them with this conviction, because I feel like as somebody who grew up also listening to like emo and punk music, it's like the lyrics were always the thing that like drew me to it, as well as like the music sounding very angsty. And
Yeah.
so I feel like you incorporating like that kind of sound and also the lyricism with it, like marry the two things together in like a way that's approachable for a much wider audience than the normal people who would like gravitate towards rock music, or like quote unquote normal people who would gravitate towards rock music, which is like 40-year-old men, like teen girls on the internet.
Yeah.
But it's like you're making it more accessible, and therefore it's like again that thing where like people are like, oh wow, like I do need to like be out there in a crowd like screaming about my feelings, screaming about like what's going on, regardless of like if the music is quote unquote political or not. Because I think even as a man, acknowledging like your feelings and acknowledging behavior that you've done towards women, like in especially with like the administration that we have right now, it's like doing that. It's like, okay, like all of these realizations I think are also happening for listeners where they're like, oh, like now is the time where we need to not be treating women like this because the politics are treating women like this.
Yeah, no, quite literally. Thank you for aligning it to like, I guess a political, not direction, but just aligning. Because honestly, for me, because I scratched the surface, now the fire's like ignited. I'm like, where am I gonna go now? Like, I know,
Yeah.
but I feel like now I have a responsibility. Like,
Yeah.
again, going back to passive, I don't want to make passive music because I don't think people need more passive music. Like, people
Yeah.
need to like the angst.
Right. Right.
When I was little and I was pissed off, I wouldn't listen to like gospel. I listened like Metallica, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, as you have to. That's a law, I think.
Down. Like I needed something that kind of had the same, not vibrato, but like the same like vibration, the same anger. Feel like I'm not crazy in these feelings, you know?
But it's also like you think about like Rage Against the Machine. It's like you think they're ever gonna go make an album that's not a statement? Like that would never happen. Like it's almost like opening the floodgates or whatever. It's like you had to talk about something that was very personal to you in order for you to change and grow. But now it's like it's really interesting that it's like kind of inspiring you to like, well, where can I take it next? And like how honest can I be? How honest can I be with myself? How honest can I be with how I'm mad at the world and how I'm mad at how I've been treated and how I want to change that? And I think it will be interesting to see what plays out in the coming years, because I don't think we have a lot of artists who are politically mad right now in their music.
No, not really. Interestingly enough, I think it's always been the underground punk scene who's always had this same thing. But as far as like a commercial level of music, no, really not.
But it would be interesting to see what happens by the time you tour this album, because I think you have a tour announced for September. I'm not sure if you're doing shows before then, but like by the time you're fully in this tour, we'll also be like in a very different place and people will have had time to sit with the album. So it'll just be interesting to see how those shows go.
And honestly, that thought has been like, I'm in a consensual gray space. Because I don't know. Like, I won't know until I'm on the stage touring. I don't know what's going to happen, but because I think I shot the first shot off, like, pow, and it's just like, like, and I'm going to keep, shooting them off, but I don't think I'll know until like I'm with, and yeah, when those conversations happen, when that reciprocity happens, then it's just like, okay, that's right. And then I think that will also give me fuel and then go back to the studio,
Yeah.
Because also, like, in preparing for a tour like this off of an album that is so themed and like everything along those lines, I'm sure that there's a lot of thought going into the production as well. And so it's like, do you know what route you're going to take in regards to like how much the visuals and production value are going to go into like the message being more visually clear or not yet?
So funny enough, we mentioned Rage. I've been watching like Rage Against the Machine, a lot of their like festival, watching like the whole sets.
Yeah.
There's a part of me that wants to, I don't know if I want like a big old LED screen behind me. I don't know if I want like the more like modern tricks that we do. I want to pull from that era and like kind of like lean into this like minimalism a bit.
Yeah.
And then use minimalism to like focus in on the message. But yeah, I think I want to like lean more into like theater and like lights and just maybe some type of like flag behind me. I want to kind of veer away from like more of the technology side.
Right.
But if I do that and still it be effective and be just as intriguing and effective as like some of the more bigger like LED screen like stage do, like,
if you think about like you said, theater, and like think about like plays and the way that lighting is utilized in that regard, it's like you can do so much with like lighting a show and like telling a story through like lights and colors along with the music, that it's like you don't need to rely on these things. And I feel like also in saying like, oh, we don't know what's going to happen by September, it's like moving away from technology, I feel like is probably the best route for everyone.
literally and honestly, like, I shouldn't speak about this because it's too soon, but for next project, hypothetically speaking, it will be the ills of technology. So now I have to provide a space where there is no screen, because all we do is look at screens all day long. Jesus Christ. So like I think maybe just my initiative as a human being, as a creative, is just like, how can we not be in front of a screen? So
there's so much to unpack here, and I'm
like, we could talk to you for 3 hours. We could just next album cycle, we'll be there, promise. But we want to thank you for this conversation today, and we have one last question that we like to ask everyone. I think you're really going to enjoy this. The ethos of our podcast is to empower fangirls, and we love to celebrate the things that we love unapologetically. So, Duckwrth, what are you a fangirl of?
Oh shit, I'm a fangirl for a lot of things. Maybe make it specific. I guess
we can do one like
it's
something.
It's like, it doesn't, like, you can name like a music thing if you want to, but we really like it when there's that thing where your friends are like, if you don't stop talking about this, I'm gonna punch you in the face. Like the thing that you're like, oh, I've had like 3 drinks and now this is all I'm talking about, kind of vibe. Like that's the type of fangirl stuff we're interested in hearing about.
So funny. I think well, I've been fangirling and like annoying my friends as of recently about alternative methods of renewable energy. And like,
perfect.
over it. Like, and for me, I'm still like learning, but I just, like I said, I came back from Osaka and I went to the World Expo. All they were talking about was like that and like sustainability. So I'm just like, did you guys know? Like, yo, it's
that's crazy.
Yeah, that renewable energy in architecture. Yeah, experimental architecture. That's it. And if it was a thing of like I'm fangirling about musically, I'm still a fangirl for Radiohead. I know I sound like such a 90s. I'm not gonna say the word I was gonna use, but I'm for some reason I just keep going back to Radiohead and every Tom York. I don't know what it is, but that's
I mean, I feel like that's real. He's a very talented lyricist, so like I don't blame you.
Yeah, and I just like how they like blended alternative rock with like electronic, and then like Tom is just constantly emoting. Like I think that's all we can get from him is just emoting. For me, I'm trying to like dive deeper into that with myself. So yeah, music. Oh, maybe one last thing.
Go for it.
Workwear. I love workwear so much. Jesus Christ! I just was walking down.
Carhartt? Not Carhartt.
Ben Dickies. No, not Dickies. Or like Ben Davis.
He's like, let me show you my closet.
I was
closet tour.
No, but Ben Davis has like really good work, and like Levi's, like because that's just like you can't beat like denim. Denim is like such a durable fabric. That's all I do.
He's like, I'm above Bushwick workwear.
Yeah. Like, I'm above Bushwick levels. We will not be Bushwick F-boy here. We've graduated, but I mean, you gotta appreciate American denim culture, to be honest.
Yo, it's extraordinary. And maybe because I'm like in such an Americana place in my life, but no, that's my favorite.
Okay, next album, no technology. It's about renewable sources of energy, and it's Americana. It's Americana, all denim.
Yeah, all denim. Just continue. Yeah.
Incredible. American flag made out of denim. All right, we can crazy. But thank you so much, Duckwrth, for joining us today.
No problem. Thank you. That was great.
That was such an eye-opening conversation because even though I hang out with a lot of men and like have a lot of men in my life platonically, I don't think I've ever had such a candid conversation about like their experiences with dating and why they act the way that they act. Because I'm sure you all also have guy friends who are great friends, incredible friends. And then anytime they start dating, you're like, why can you treat me as your friend well, but you don't know how to treat the women that you are romantically interested in well? And we talk about this a lot on the podcast, and I think it has a lot to do with like the thing of like it's really hard for men to both respect and desire someone. And this is like a big struggle, and we talk about this in regards to like Britney Spears and the way that she's been talked about, and a lot of the way that pop stars are talked about in media and all these things. And so getting to hear Duckwrth's perspective on all of that and like how it went into his writing process for this record and like his self-discovery and like figuring out just like what he wanted to do with his music, finding his voice again, and also just like what he wants to do with the live show when it comes to this album, because he has all of these big ideas and he wants this to be just like this story about what's wrong with America and our culture and all of these things. And I just find him to be such an interesting and captivating artist, and the way he thinks is so beautiful. And I'm just so thankful that he was willing to share as much as he did with us. And so I hope you guys really enjoy that interview. Thanks for getting candid with us and Duckwrth. This has been Sarah from Name 3 Songs. If you want to get your pop culture fix, you want to hear us do commentary on things that are happening in the media and the world, you can hear all of our past episodes of Name 3 Songs as well as new commentary episodes on your favorite podcast platform. And that's Name the number 3 Songs on all podcast platforms.